All right, Beta Branch 1.2 is now live, and we have Beta Branch 1.3 to look into. And let me tell you guys, it's a huge patch. It's very, very dense. And I'm going to say this multiple times throughout this entire video, but I strongly recommend you try 1.3. I'm just going to dive right in on these patch notes because there are so many of them. And I'm going to kind of skip through the ones that I don't find particularly pertinent to anyone unless they're specifically happening to you. For example, crashes, I will probably not touch on right now. But performances, we've had a huge increase in this. Significantly reduced scene loading times and performance improvements for battles. I will tell you guys right now, prior to this patch, I had my FPS capped at 80, and now I have it capped at 100 with very little drop in frames. I'm actually very, very happy with the improvement in graphics that you will see once we jump into the game in a little bit. A lot of art improvements here and localization improvements, mainly with a lot of LOD as well as with some physics issues. The beards not popping through your armor from version 1.2 is also live in 1.3. So if you want to have a nice helmet, now you don't have to worry about your beard popping through, which is always great. Campaign map has had a world map GPU memory usage reduction, which is great. So when you're walking around the world map, you should get less stuttering and stammering, unlike myself, which I do quite a bit. A nice amount of UI overhauls. Now, nothing here is too pivotal or amazing or huge. I think that my favorite portion of this, though, is right around here. So added destroyed and not destroyed filter options to the clan list page in the encyclopedia, added alive, dead status filter options to encyclopedia hero list page, and destroyed clans banners now show up less saturated encyclopedia pages, and loaded modules panel in save games is now scrollable. So this last note is good if you were running a lot of mods. You can now hopefully scroll through your modules and see what's loaded in. But I think what's really great about this is that it shows that you can add filters to things that well, while previously had filters, they're adding more. My point is that hopefully this bleeds over into the party screen and we get filters wherein we can filter our party by unit type, by tier, by level, level ups, whatever it is. But hopefully the ability to filter your party is kind of pushed in through here. I really, really hope we get some filters added to the party screen. Now, battles and sieges in combat have all had some massive overhauls, or at least tweaks. I say overhauls because I guess it's just a comfortable word for me. But increased effect of number advantage in simulation battles. Siege assault battles now last longer in simulation. Increased effect of wall quality in siege assault simulations. Battle missions check the maturity of agents during spawning and increase age if required. Fixed a problem that caused AI to fall from walls at the siege tower attachment position. This one is actually pretty huge. Prior to this, if you were sieging a city, sometimes the AI would just free fall off the wall and into your men and just get butchered alive. It happened to me. It was great. It felt good. But a big one too is during sally outs, garrisons now consider all enemy power outside of the settlement, not just parties which are in the same faction with the siege camp leader. So here's why this is important. Have you ever done a siege? Siege the city. Let's just say you've got 600 men. The city's got 200. And the city just kind of builds their defenses and waits till the siege happens and it gets going. But you'll notice that the AI will kind of convene around the city like gnats. Well, now the AI will see how many of their own troops are outside the city, outside of your own siege camp, and it'll add the number up. And if it's at least an equal amount, or it feels that it can actually take the fight, you will get way more sally outs now. So I did a couple sieges and I was like, oh damn. Oh wow, they sallied out at me. They sallied out at me. They sallied out at me. So be prepared to do a siege, but also deal with far more field battles than you were normally doing from them sallying out. So you'll get a lot of really cool mechanics from that. With the combat AI here, this is mainly having to do with archers and their collision, as well as issues where things would just kind of get stuck on stuff. In cases like this, the more powerful side would sometimes try to change without any path over the walls, causing them to walk into walls. Now, I believe it actually might be a 1.2 beta patch note that's up above. And if you have not seen my coverage on 1.2, I did cover all those patch notes, and that's why I'm not covering them right now. And everything that they've hotfixed throughout the week was applied to 1.2. So if you've already gotten in the live branch, it's coming into 1.2 as well. But the big thing there was that siege towers, let me highlight that thing so it's important, have now been fixed, or at least they've been mostly fixed. So in the past, your troops would only use one of the 3 ladders in the siege tower, and they would stop about halfway up and then maybe just not use it, or just kind of give up and get killed at the top. They didn't really use it a whole ton. Now they will use 1, if not 2, maybe 3 of the ladders, but they'll go all the way up and continue to funnel up. They're not just going to get stuck at the bottom. They're actually going to proceed to the top of the siege tower and do some damage. So I think that's very huge. Now, 2 big things here. I'm sorry, this big thing right here. Implemented and fixed cultural feats in character creation. So if you built your character around any of the cultural feats, such as Kazate's movement bonus with horses, Sturgia's movement bonus through snow, the Valandian experience bonus, the Empire's building bonus, so on and so forth, you now get advantage of that perk, or that feat, I'm sorry. You do not need to start a new save. That will be there retroactively for you. All of these changes are retroactive. You never ever need to start a new save. More often than not, starting a new save will make your game cleaner. I've noticed that some of these things that we're going to talk about in Clan and Party are a little clunky in my old saves, like the ones that are from 1.0 or so. But this will help you, hopefully, in taking advantage of those cultural feats. Also increased effective trade skill on trade penalty to 0.4% per skill point, which is quite nice. Increased adolescence options for the Britannian culture from 4 to 6 in character creation. We'll go through that at the very end of this video. Fixed a bug where talking with the tutorial headman gave a large amount of charm experience. So if you're expecting to come out of the tutorial with 60 charm, you will no longer be able to do that. And tweaked age progression, your character should now look more like their age. Clan and Party, though, has had a number of pretty big important changes too. So, increased chance of pregnancy, that's a cool one. Hero wages are no longer 0. So dependent upon your hero's age, or your companion's age, or your wife's age, or husband's age, level, they will now charge you money. So let's take, for example, I think it's like a 22 level companion's like 45 gold. So it's not huge, but they will charge you now. Lord parties have more experienced troops and fewer recruits. They also use their party size limit as much as possible. So you're going to be dealing with much larger armies. Like take, for example, Regia. She had like a 200 person plus army, and it still had a lot of recruits, but it had far more tier 2 and tier 3 units than I was used to. So take, for example, let's just say it had 60 recruits, but it also had 40 tier 2 Imperial infantrymen and 40 tier 2 Imperial archers. So they are starting to finally get better troops and better units in their armies. But I bet if I started a new save, that would be better represented. Right now, I think it's trying to catch up with that retroactively. Parties do not recruit prisoners of defeated parties if they're at their party size limit. This was causing some AI parties to lose better troops because of desertion. Garrison sizes are increased a bit due to the better economical management of clan leaders. The escape chance, this one's massive, of prisoners is reduced by 25% when they are in mobile parties, and is reduced by 50% if they're in the player's settlement, meaning now you will finally be able to have the chance to actually have those captured heroes get ransomed off. And also clan leaders will raid more. Well, their faction will raid more if they're a poorer clan. Donate troops and inspect troops is no longer going to be done with caravans, villagers, and militia parties. Armies as a whole, is this a big one I wanted to talk about? Yeah. So if caravans have lots of wounded troops, they will wait longer in town to recover. Also, armies that are starving and armies that have a high amount of wounded will now wait in towns to recover and buy up food. Also, army party members were attacking parties more powerful than them, assuming their army would help. However, they were not attached to the army leader yet, and assistance from the army did not occur. So situations where armies would smash out these small 30 or 40 people, and they would just kind of chase around the army with like a bunch of trains of little small dudes. That's not going to happen anymore. They'll actually convene together and attack. While heading to a settlement, NPC parties sometimes also visit other settlements they are passing nearby on their way. This results in better recruitment, which is solid. Now, economy and trade is pretty good here too. Players can now sell goods to caravans at a reduced price. Caravans are now created with sumpter horses, and player trade with owned caravans was disabled due to balance concerns. The player now has a secondary option while creating caravans, setting it up with a higher number of better troops. However, a caravan forming costs are 1.5x in this scenario, and we'll go through that in the game. We'll show you guys how that works out. A bunch of different quests and fixes here. Nothing to do with the conspiracy, so if you're hoping for that, that unfortunately is no longer there. Conversation stuff's not too huge, but these ones are some pretty big points. stats of some faction army troops have been fixed and rebalanced in order to maintain faction balance. Sturgia just got stronger. Because also, all Sturgian faction troops now use round shields. They also use shields that are more fitting to their level and abilities. I don't want to touch on that right now. We're going to go into it in the actual game portion of the game where I show you and talk directly about those stat differences. And tournaments will now have exclusive, weaker, and easier to break shields, which is nice. And you can no longer strip down your storyline brother if you were hoping to do that again. So overall, a lot of really amazing fixes here, a lot of big performance increases, and a lot of graphical overhauls. You guys are going to see right now as we jump into the game how a lot of this comes to life. And I can't recommend it enough. 1.3 is the way to go. Before we jump in there, I do want to apologize if I did kind of go through this quickly. It is such a dense set of patch notes. I didn't want to bog you guys down with like a 30 or 45 minute video on this because I think showing it is a little bit more important. So let's jump into the game now. Oh, and I probably should talk about this now. Horses can no longer climb on ladders. Sorry, guys. Game's ruined. Return it. Tell Steam. All right, here we are in the game, and you can already tell that the graphics look a lot sharper. The character models are way more lit up, and they don't look as big and bulky anymore. They're kind of way back to the pre-1.1 beta branch days, where they're a little bit more in line with their size, not these massive hulked out dudes anymore. You can see that there's been a real good change to them, a real good overall overhaul to the graphics and everything here. So if you did do this in the previous patch, jump over here to options, go to video, calibrate and configure your exposure. You're going to want to bring those back down to a normal level now. They're way, way higher than they probably should be as per 1.3. So, and let me just be clear out the gate here. I strongly recommend you to try out 1.3. I think it's an amazing patch so far, and I really, really like it. Let's jump into a lot of the big changes. Just right out the gate too, as well for trading. A lot of people are really concerned about this one, so I want to hit it in the head. Where is it? Aha, there it is, the light crossbow. Light crossbow is now in the game. You don't need to mod it in. So if you want a 0 skill crossbow, there it is finally. So you can see that has been added. The graphics, the calibration overhaul has been done. I do want to warn you guys though, looters are fatal, just like they are in 1.2, and you do not want to just go willy-nilly on them. Your character, the skill perks, we know some of them still don't work. So if you were hoping to use this skill here, bow expert or crossbow expert, they still do not work. So I'm probably going to see, or we are probably going to see that as a like little mystery change, or it's just going to be like, oh, some perks now work as intended, like something that we don't really know. It's going to be super vague and we're going to discover it. So right now, though, it doesn't work. I've put on a bow and it does not indeed. A longbow does not work on horseback. There was a little bit of a UI change here. Anytime you get a new perk, it's displayed up here in the corner versus down here in this corner. So it's a little bit easier to kind of see at a glance on a scanning principle. Now, one of the biggest things again is some of the stat tweaks. So here is the Valandian Banner Knight, and they actually had a bit of a change. Almost all the cav has had their stats changed. So take for example here, this is the Banner Knight stats in 1.3. Well, in 1.2, it is 280 polearm and 220 riding. So he loses both 20 polearm and 20 riding, but he somehow gains 5 throwing and I don't know, what is it, like 25 crossbow, or 35 crossbow, I'm sorry. So there's been a lot of weird tweaks, but a lot of them make a lot of sense. Like I said now earlier, the Imperial crossbow, jump over to this guy. He now has skill in his crossbow matching what he would use. He's got 100 crossbow skill and 60 bow, whereas it was opposite before. But let's take a look at the Sturgian troops because they've gotten a huge, huge overhaul. Now these two guys right here, the Druziniks, these guys have had a big, big jump up in their stat line. 150 polearm, 130 one-handed, 130 riding, and they've got some throwing in there as well. I don't see any throwing things on them though. And then these guys, 220 one-handed, 260 polearm, and 200 riding. This is in line with Valandian Banner Knights and with Imperial Cataphracts. Imperial Cataphracts also got some interesting tweaks as well. They actually got an increase to their polearm and their riding skills, which I found kind of being a little odd. But again, a huge change here for some of those Sturgian units. So nothing really huge in this portion of the branch. Things for the most part pretty normal. But the Sturgian Spearman has gotten a proper round shield, and all of the shields now for the Sturgians, they are better shields. They're bigger as far as being an actual northern round shield. They have a better amount of hit points because they all now depend on what they're made of. It's not just simply, oh, here's a tier 1 shield for no reason. He still does have some pretty weak armor, but he now has, in accordance with his actual equipment, he's got 100 pole arm, which is quite nice. So he's actually a little bit more in line with what he's supposed to be. Again, his chest piece is pretty god-awful for a tier 4 unit, but the Sturgian Berserkers and the Ulfhednar have gotten a massive buff. Look at these guys. 150 two-handed. That used to be 100 before. And his athletics is 150, up from 130, and his throwing is now 130, up from 30. So these guys are just machines. They're buzzsaws. And I know they're not wearing any armor. They don't have shields, but at least now we're getting something that's a little bit more representative of, I guess, how Sturgia would be used. Their shield wall is far more effective because their shields are actually true to form. Take a look at the Sturgian Brigand. He actually has a big, nice round shield now. And on top of it, their weapons and their stat lines are way better. Even again, taking a look at the Shock Troop and the Veteran Warrior, we have increased stat lines on these guys. And the big thing here is that, take a look at the Shock Troop. One-handed is now 140, up from 100. Athletics, 125, up from 100. So these guys, again, got a massive buff to themselves. So hopefully we'll start to see Sturgia start to hold the line because their troops will overall be better. Now, they do still suffer from poor tier 1, 2, and 3 units, in my opinion. And I think that that's kind of where that power curve happens in the early portions of your campaign. But hopefully this will kind of bring things back in line a little bit for a lot of your campaigns when it comes to Sturgia just getting steamrolled. So maybe it's time to actually give that a shot. Give those Sturgians a shot. So one of the other little things that's not in the patch notes I want to talk about real quick is your construction on your towns or your castles. If you hover over it, you will now see your bonus from a boost from reserve. The second one right there, boost from reserve, is plus 50. So your construction boost from reserve is now visible when you mouse over the tooltip. That's one I discovered the other day, or just a bit ago. We covered light crossbowmen, companions themselves. Let me show you that really quick, guys. Pop right here, you can see that her wage is 46 and her level is 22. His is 18 though, so it's 38. My wife's is 11. Or I'm sorry, she's level 11, so her wage is 24. So you can see now that it's not a huge increase in price, but it is still enough to take notice of. And let me jump over to another save real quick to just show you the caravan pricing, and we can then jump into the character creation to close this video out. So here we are with Eckerd the Ironmonger. We want to start up a caravan, and so you can see here it'll cost 15k to start the caravan, or is there a way to form a caravan that includes better troops? And boom, there you go. It now costs 22,500 to create a caravan with better troops. So we'll have my spice vendor do it, and we're all done. So that's just kind of, I really quickly wanted to show that off. Nothing overly crazy about it. And you can see too, I really like the performance increase so far. Even just walking around the town is a little bit nicer. Overall, the battles themselves are way sharper, way cleaner. Like them a lot. So let's jump over to character creation to just show off the Battanian stuff real fast, and we'll be done with this here recap. Here we are in the culture selection portion of the character creator. Now again, all of these are now active. So if you built your character around these, you now can take full advantage of them. But let me make a Battanian cultured character. We'll go ahead and just... Okay, now if I choose foresters or bards, they have now had this increase in the adolescent stage right here. So there's now more. Trained with the Hearthguard, stood with the garrisons, rode with the scouts, trained with the infantry, joined the skirmishers, joined the kern, and marched with the camp followers. The Hearthguard is new for the forcers and bards, and then this portion as well has had 2 of them added here. And they're not new, they're ones that are in other choices. So if I choose, say, the member of the Chieftain's Hearthguard, these choices were the ones that were not the same if you chose Bard or Forester. Now they're the same in Adolescence. And when I come over here, we're a Chieftain's Servant trained with the Hearthguard. So there's been some changes to youth as well that were not really very obvious in the patch notes. So you've had a couple little tweaks here and there. And you can even see it from the armament. You can see my sword and shield, my axe and shield. full arm there. The saddle on my horse changes too. Overall, again, a bit more of an overhaul in the character development portion. We still haven't seen more sliders here like age. If you've played multiplayer, you can actually custom do how your guy's age is. But I expect to see stuff like body mass, fatter or not fatter, leaner, not leaner, big, huge bulk mass, steroid freak beast, or, skinny little pipe. So hopefully, as we kind of move through this patch, we'll start to get more and more of these little things added to the game. But I did want to just kind of recap the character creation portion, guys. I strongly, strongly recommend you checking out 1.3. It is a massive, massive patch. You can see this is the longest recap we've done yet. So I strongly encourage you to test it out. I think it's got a lot of awesome things that have been added to the game and a lot of really great balances for the units to actually have their stats corrected and be indicative of what they're supposed to be in the game. If you have any other questions or you're having any issues with the patch, please, by all means, guys, go ahead and leave me a comment below. I'll see if I can help the best I can. But don't forget to like, subscribe, all that kind of action. But have a good one and take care.